Crab.
Good afternoon. We are live here at the Penrose Point State Park on the beautiful Key Peninsula, and we wanted to show you one of our favorite locations, and it's a bit of a secret, so I don't know why we're telling people, but we're here. We're gonna explore the lagoon side of Penrose Point. So normally we like to stick to the long peninsula that sticks out at the middle. It's really easy access at this location because you park and you walk level to the lawn and you walk level straight out to the beach. So it's a good beach if you have young children or people with mobility issues. It's a nice location to get there. It's not too tricky. But if you're willing to put in a little bit more effort, you can explore this. So let me flip my camera around and show you this amazing lagoon that is tucked away. So in a moment, you'll be able to see kind of where we are relative to where the park is, but the parking lot is that direction. And there is a trail that takes you here, but the trail is closed, so we accessed this by the beach. Got a little muddy on our shoes.
Slipping and sliding through the mud.
It's a little treacherous, but we made it. And this place is really, really fantastic because it's protected by this berm of sand and shell that is kind of built up. It's a little natural sand spit. And then this puddle of water just sits here. And during high tide, it gets filled with new salt water. And then during low tide, it empties slowly through this looks like a little creek bed here. And there is life here. You wouldn't think. The water here is a little bit murkier. It's a little siltier because it doesn't get quite the flushing. But it's an amazing place to view some creatures. Ooh, like an American crow. Cool. So if you're watching, if you wouldn't mind popping into the comments where you're watching from and maybe how many people are with you. We like to know that information. And then, of course, you can share our videos. You can share it right now while it's happening, or after the fact, we'll make sure that we post it as well. So, Christina, tell us some stuff.
Well, I'm already excited to go swimming in here after a live video, but it kind of looks pretty lake-like. But it's definitely a salt water habitat, right? That brackish water, so a mix of salt water and fresh water is happening here. And right off the bat, we're starting to see those sea creatures, letting us know that, okay, a lake would not have these
Oysters.
Japanese oysters or mussels or limpets or snails.
And all this shell debris, I mean, the very substrate we're walking on, this whiteness, is dead barnacles and crushed up sand dollars and remains of snails and clams. Oh, here's a live clam. Showing.
I have a live clam too.
You do? I would actually venture to guess that lots of these are alive.
Yeah.
But this one right here is showing the siphon, the two little holes that pull water in and out of a clam and other bivalves. Bivalve means two shells or two valves. A mussel is another example of a bivalve. And these are filter feeders, so they're pulling whatever plankton is in the water, and they don't really get a choice about what they can eat. So this is a species that we are concerned about. One, because humans do like to eat clams, and two, because they don't really have a way to escape any pollution that may be in their waters. So keeping our water quality really high and good is what's best for these little creatures. And I'll just lift him up so you can see him retract. See how he pulls that siphon in. And I think this is a Manila clam.
Yeah. I'm really just taking the moment to find a spot and sit for a while and just observe. I'm noticing when I first got here, I was like, uh-oh, what are we going to
Uh-oh, what are we going to say?
But it turns out, just in the time that Rachel was talking about that clam, I've noticed green shore crabs here, hermit crabs, and then I wanted to have you focus on this shell because the barnacles.
Oh, the barnacles are eating.
Reaching out their feet and scooping plankton out of the water.
Focus on that without the glare.
Yeah.
The trouble with a nice sunny day is the glare.
Yeah, it kind of looks like eyelashes going to town, just flickering around. And those are actually the feet of the barnacle, which it uses to collect plankton out of the water and then scoops it in and eats it. So you can imagine trying to eat like a barnacle, you'd have to do a headstand because barnacles live on their head and eat with their feet. So do that headstand and try and eat your chips with your toes. Send us videos, please.
Oh, there's a fish.
Oh, wow. Cute.
Really hard to tell what kind of fish. I would guess maybe a
juvenile.
Yeah, it's a baby of something. He's got dark eyes and looks like no swim bladder because he's set and rested on the bottom. Very cool. There's everything is really small and almost miniaturized in this, probably because there's a few less resources here than there are on the other parts of the beach. But let's walk along and see. Stina's gonna go in the middle. All right, she's.
Well, I don't even have to go that far.
No, right? There's like, oh, there's more fish, more crabs I'm seeing.
I see the sand dollar.
Ooh, there's a school of shiner perch babies. Do you see them?
Oh, yes.
Now, the real question is, does everyone at home see them? There, now they're in the sunlight. You can probably see. Okay, you're going to count them.
Yes, about 40.
Yeah. So these are, I would guess, shiner perch, just from their size and their schooling behavior. That's a really common species to see intertidally. They like to live right in the surf, right against the shore. And they school together. And these are juveniles, and they're born about the size of a nickel or dime. And I did say born because they are born alive, which is crazy. You'll see sometimes a very swollen looking fish that'll just kind of shimmy and wiggle, and all of a sudden out will pop the little shiny dime miniature creature.
Well, what are these creatures?
What are these creatures? We're children, of course. Yeah, I've got my mom hat on today, and I guess, of course, every day. But, ooh, look, we've got a graceful crab, so you're just going to try to chase him down. But the graceful crab is very graceful underwater and moves sideways very quickly. We got a question yesterday during our video about why do the crab's legs move sideways, and this is a great view to show that. While they can articulate their walking legs and go kind of forward and backward a little bit, they more easily move back, I guess, side to side, which is cool. And this is a graceful crab.
Yeah, because it's so graceful.
It's so beautiful. I mean, look at the purple on those.
Sometimes common names are weird. We don't really know why it's a graceful crab.
I think because it's not very, I mean, they're not really aggressive. They just are calm.
Perfect. But yeah, that purple color is gorgeous.
So pretty.
And this is a crab that you might be thinking, oh, it's a Dungeness. Not harvestable, of harvestable size, but it's actually not a Dungeness crab. And part of the way we can tell is by looking at the carapace, or that top shell, and I noticed these little teeth along the sides. There's the widest tooth, and then past that widest tooth, there's a little notch.
There's a tiny little notch.
And that notch is our dead giveaway that this is indeed not a Dungeness crab, because a Dungeness crab, or dungy, would be totally smooth and would be missing that notch.
The other way that I know it's not a Dungeness is by looking at the little kind of protrusions on the forearms, on the pinchers here. The graceful crabs kind of have two little teeth that stick up right there and there. Dungeness has almost like a comb, like a row of those little protrusions. What are you guys noticing over here? Anything? Any creatures?
No.
I think I saw some clay.
Some clay. Yeah, clay is really common around here. It's pretty slippery when you find it and it's underwater. Let's walk a little further and see what else we can see. There may be more fish in here.
I don't know. I think, was it you, Rachel, who posted, what do you call a group of sand dollars?
Oh, yes. Here we are. We found a group of sand dollars. So we've reached the sand dollar bank. Because, I mean, where else are you going to call a collection of dollars? So Stina's going to reach her long arm down there and grab one of these amazing creatures.
And this is a live sand dollar. So for those of you who've never seen a live sand dollar before, you might be thinking, this is not what I recognize as a sand dollar. It's too dark. It doesn't have that little pattern, but it really does. There's the 5-starred petals of the sand dollar. And because this is an echinoderm, they're covered in short little spines.
Yeah, you can see them really sparkling in the sunshine. That's the animal actually moving its little spines.
Its little muscles moving those spines, and there's little grooves. So we might find a sand dollar test, or the shell of a sand dollar, so we can really see the mouth in the middle. And my favorite part, where he uses the bathroom.
You can't be a naturalist unless you know all about how animals eat and poop.
There's this little divot here, so it's gonna use the bathroom somewhere around here. And we love the fact that sand dollars, they coordinate going to the bathroom. So as the tide goes out, they're
everybody goes. That's a pretty good system, actually.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we'll try to find a test of a dead one so that you can compare. There's a number of them here. There's some just right here in the lagoon. There's a little bank here, and then on the other side there is quite a large bank. Look at that sparkle.
It's mesmerizing.
It's beautiful. It's like a disco ball almost. For those of you watching at home, if you want to pop any questions you have into the comments, we will do our best to answer them. No guarantees, though. We don't know everything. We know a lot, and we have lots of expertise, but can't promise. And again, we're here at the lagoon at Penrose Point, and this family that you can see in the distance here has just popped out to where the main trail leads you. So there is a campground trail that probably circumvents the closure in the trail. But for now, we're kind of just enjoying this little lagoon. You can see the disruptions to the surface of the water. Well, some are coming from this kid, but quite a few over there are from fish. And I've snorkeled in here before. The water is quite warm compared to the water temperature of Puget Sound, and especially on a nice warm day when the tide is out for a long time, this can get, maybe 60 degrees or so.
I remember when we did come snorkeling here, there was a nice little population of 3-spined stickleback fish.
Ah, yeah.
Which are a pretty cool species. Really scientifically important. They're studied for a lot of...
They have really cool ecology too, or behavior. Ethology.
Ethology?
Your study of your ethos is your ethology, which is behavioral.
I know we don't normally talk about plants when we do this.
Oh yeah, let's talk about plants, because this is about as beachy a plant as you can get. Ooh, there's more of those little fish in here. Tiny guys. You probably can't see them. Okay, sorry. Tell us about plants, Tina.
So, a plant with many names. I call it beach asparagus. I've also heard it called pickleweed.
Sea beans.
Sea beans. And it's actually a harvestable species. I'm not sure at a state park what the
regulations are.
Picking it, but check that before you go out and get a bunch of pickleweed. But I am just going to take a little sprig of it. And it's a very salt tolerant plant, and it actually brings salt into its tissues, and when you eat it, it's very salty.
Nice and salty. Okay.
I could imagine this being really good with like butter and lemon and a
Ooh.
little black pepper.
Yeah. Maybe saute with some of those clams that are also found here. Clamming is closed right now, though.
The table is set.
Yeah, really cool species. If you come here in the spring, they have bright yellow flowers, and they don't really smell or anything. They're just really pretty. There's another yellow flowered species here. I think this is GM. Based on the little hooks.
Really sticky.
Yeah, they are really sticky. It's a good strategy for your survival to be sticky if you've got seeds to spread. All right, you can hear the wind probably now. Oh, and maybe you can even see the eagle who's flying around over the treetops. Sorry, my phone does not have a zoom lens on it, but you'll just have to trust me when I say there's lots and lots of eagles around here. Sometimes we hear them. They like to perch on either side of this long peninsula that sticks out. So I'm going to hand the phone to Stina while I wrangle my children and we cross over this berm and head down and experience some of the more lower tidal areas because this holds the water the whole time. We don't get much low tide here, so we'll handle that. And Stina, we got a question from Sherry on there about sand dollars.
Yeah, so Sherry's asking if sand dollars move around on their own, and they absolutely do. So being a relative of the sea stars and other tube-footed creatures, the sand dollar does have little suction cup tube feet that it can use to pull itself along. They can bury themselves in the sand. I'm trying to kind of use my body as a wind block here. We can walk backwards. Look at the picnic. But yeah, so sand dollars, they can bury themselves, and we've seen them buried as much as over a foot deep in the sand. We typically don't like to dig things up, but for our community science, we'll be counting sand dollars, and we'll at least run our fingers fingertip deep into the sand, and we've counted hundreds of sand dollars within our quadrats. So kind of a cool thing to see. Yeah. So thanks for that question. And again, yeah, if you have more questions, feel free to tap those into the comments. I kind of got a piece of that pickleweed in the back of my throat. I'm gonna stop here and look at the rack line while I wait for Rachel. This is that line of high seaweed that got pushed up by the last high tide. You can imagine this whole area covered in water when the tide is high, including the beautiful long spit. That is an iconic little beach walk of Penrose Point State Park. Really, there's you can see the people walking across. It's almost like a sand highway that leads you all the way out to the end of that point. And on a really, really low tide, you can actually see Mount Rainier on a clear day around the point of Penrose. So very fun place to be. But we've, I think, done that walk before. So we're switching it up. We're going with the lagoon and kind of this mud flat, because there's exciting, cool things in the mud as well. And it looks like, are you all joining us for a beach walk? Nice. Are you excited to see anything today, Eli? Anything that's exciting, I would agree. And we have Evelyn here too. Sweet. Yeah, I would agree that as delicious as snacks are, going on a beach walk is going to be way more fun. So cool. Where should we head, team?
I say let's head down to those boulders down there.
Perfect. I don't know if you caught that great blue heron swooping out.
Did you talk about strand line?
I did talk about strand line.
Perfect.
All this nice, you can actually see kind of, there's high tides of differing heights. So I'm noticing the green here is from the last high tide, but you can kind of see remnants of an even higher high tide looking up above into the more drier brown seaweeds. I'm going to carefully walk through this so I don't slip. Catch up with these kids. Yeah, that is surprising.
I mean, the tide comes all the way over it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Nice. What'd you find?
So the inside of a clam, there's a couple dead barnacles on it, a couple live barnacles on it, which goes to show you everything becomes habitat at the beach. And this one's got some really pretty purple on the inside.
Yeah, and that purple was a really good clue to let us know that it's the Japanese little neck clam. The native species doesn't quite get that dark purple, so. Yeah. I appreciate how well-trained Rachel's children are for beach adventuring. Ooh, perfect. All right, so we saw the live sand dollar earlier in our video, and this is an example of a sand dollar that is no longer living, but here's the shell that lives inside, or that is inside of the sand dollar. So that lets us see kind of it's been eroded, but
5 segments like a sea star on its back.
And then when we flip it over, the hole in the middle is the mouth, and then that little hole on the edge is where the sand dollar uses the bathroom. So now you know.
And a live sand dollar will never ever show you their mouth or their butt for that matter, but this will always be covered with spines in a living organism. So you can flip it over, and if you see the hole, it's dead or dying. If the hole is covered, it's alive.
Yep. And as tempting as it might be to be like, oh, this is going to look so good in my bathroom, sand dollars, as you see, like if we look down at the sand, they're kind of like, I don't know, vitamin C in a way. They break down into little pieces. Calcium. And yeah, that calcium
pill. So here's that one that I just
reabsorbed.
Had. If you smush it, you can see like the sutures of the how it was kind of assembled, which is kind of neat.
That's very cool. Okay, it's a puzzle. Put it back together.
Put it back together. And then on the inside, if you're lucky. Sometimes you can find these little
The mouth parts.
tiny. It's
Why
so
are
tiny
you
and
so
it's covered in
sandy?
sand. Maybe I'll find you another one. But they look like we always called them angels or doves as kids. Yeah, do you find another one?
Yeah,
They're kind of buttresses to help hold up the shell, and then there's mouth parts inside there too, which is
Yeah, this one has a nice example of the grooves.
Oh, yeah, there
And
you
those grooves help move food to the mouth. And then, of course, a little carapace of a crab and a little periwinkle snail. All right, I'm going to catch up to the kiddos. Walking across some barnacle-covered oysters, getting into some nice sandy, gooey territory. Oh, there's a beautiful heart cockle. This is a clam that I think is actually not alive because I can probably open it, but one-handed it's hard. Da-da-da. Maybe it is alive. But the heart cockle is, I like to think of it as the Ruffles potato chip of the clam world. I can close my eyes and just kind of feel the shell and notice it has these really distinct bumpy ridges that go from the umbo, which is where the hinge of that shell is, down to the edges, and really pretty colors. And if I flip it to its side, it looks, make sure that's kind of in focus for you, it looks like a heart. And that is where the heart cockle gets its name. So if you see a heart-shaped, ruffly potato chip shell, that is indeed a heart cockle. And they're kind of a unique clam in that they don't always bury themselves. They can do that, but they're often free-living on the surface of the sand, and they have a pretty cool defense strategy. Their big, long, muscular foot can actually kick out of the shell and help them scooch along the bottom of the seafloor, and they can essentially run away or hop away from, say, something like a hungry sea star. And here's some examples of that heart cockle that are open. Again, you can close it, see that heart shape, see those nice ridges. Nice. Somebody's had a little meal of these guys here. So cool to see those. Really pretty shells. Ooh, another good question from Sherry about the green algae and whether or not it has holdfasts when it's, sorry, let me read that again. It kind of has both. So if it's unattached, it can still be living, but we can see here on these nice rocks, they don't have the holdfast like that kelp or brown algae would typically have, but they do, if we look close, they do grow on things. So there is an attachment point, and it's not as distinct of a feature that like the holdfast of a kelp stipe would be, or the stipe of the kelp to the holdfast to a rock, but it is attached. And then even if it's not attached, it can still survive and thrive. And of course, if it gets too high, pushed up into the intertidal zone, it can dry out and not be revived. Are y'all finding anything cool out there? We're on a moon snail mission. What was that clam dance move? Very nice. It's definitely getting a little soggier. A part of a claw. Nice find, Eli. I'm noticing we're kind of in, moon snail tracks. I'm seeing the tubes of some tube worms here. These are banded tube worms. They're sticking out all over the sand here.
It makes a mess.
What do you see? Oh, interesting. Gentle touches. Ooh, yeah, so in order to bury under that rock. Oops. The crab will push away sediment with its big pinchers.
Right. And I have found
use them like
something I
shovels.
don't like to find on the beach.
Uh-oh.
Not my favorite thing. This is
Ooh.
a big rock that got flipped.
Yep.
And this rock, I can tell it got flipped for a couple of reasons. One, there's very smooth, nothing really underneath, and the algae's on this side, so this should be this direction. But I'm noticing right here, see these little papery bits? These are the remains of eggs from a midshipman fish, which is a long, kind of a tadpole-shaped fish. They live underneath big rocks. So rocks that are really too big to flip. There's also a couple of tubes of some, this is a spaghetti worm tube here. There's some jingles under there.
That must have been, whoever or whatever did that must be pretty strong.
Pretty strong, yeah. I usually find there's a lot of dads at the beach that like to show off how strong they are. Because they think the bigger the rock that they can flip, the cooler the creatures. And sometimes that's true, but sometimes you put animals at
You'd
risk
be
like this.
a really cool, strong person if you'd flip your rock back how you found it. Because if we think back to our beach etiquette, everything stays, and we remember to flip those head-sized rocks back in place after we investigate underneath. But really, if it's a rock bigger than your head, it's not really worth disrupting the creatures underneath, because you can't really safely place that rock back how you found it. You'll have to inevitably crush some creatures as you roll it back into place. So
Not ideal.
yeah, better
Alright,
just
I thought I
to
saw a
leave
Moon
it.
Snail track, but I think we'll find a better one to look
Yeah.
over here.
Well, Rachel's looking for that Moon Snail track. I noticed over here, in addition to that banded tube worm, the kind of skinny straw we see on the beach, Rachel mentioned the spaghetti tube worm. And this, it just kind of looks like a odd cluster of shell debris, but it is arranged into a tube. You kind of see the hole where the worm that has very spaghetti-like feeding tentacles reaches out when the tide is high to grab some food, and then can hang out inside that shell, just like these guys, and wait for, stay safe while the tide is low and wait for that water to return. So once you start seeing those, you're like, oh my gosh, they're everywhere. So I'm seeing all sorts of these little tube worms on the beach. Ooh. Da-da-da.
Lots and lots and lots of these little yellow blobs.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find the snail, but as we walk, you can see lots and lots of clusters of those yellow eggs. Those are from a type of slug, a sea slug, called the bubble snail. And they're called that because after the animal's dead, their shell is so thin, it's clear, and you can see through it, and it looks like a little bubble.
Sweet.
So where there's eggs, there's usually adults. And there are eggs everywhere.
Yeah, there's some more here.
Vibrant yellow.
Yeah, that's a nice pile.
Yeah, they're everywhere out here. And gosh, maybe last month we were here, and the whole beach was yellow from these.
Yeah. So another kind of cool thing, so Penrose is one of the sites that Harbor WildWatch is partnering up with the Pacific Lutheran University and University of Washington Tacoma, and with some cool grants we're working on kind of looking at oyster recruitment on these beaches, and that's to potentially do some Olympia oyster restoration at this site. And to see if they're spawning, we've been putting shell strings out kind of over on the other side of this spit. And every 2 weeks, we look at the shells under a microscope, and we've seen those bubble snail eggs settling on the shells. And then within those bubble snail eggs, we've been seeing little sea slugs actually eating the eggs. So it's been kind of a cool, fun thing to see. Eli, what'd you find?
It's a moon snail egg case.
Oh, cool.
What do you know about it?
Yeah.
I know that moon snails always keep their eggs in it. It's kind of a weird thing to do. You know what? It's weird.
Totally. Yeah.
And the Most of the time, I think they do it at night.
Ooh.
Here, I found one of Stina's favorite creatures.
Ah.
This little snail.
Can I see?
Yeah, you can see it just a moment.
Look.
And Stina likes it because it will come out and wiggle its little foot. You can start to see it. Come on out, don't be shy.
I've noticed that whenever you're trying to get it to do it on camera or in front of a group, they have
They're
a,
reluctant.
yeah. But yeah, this is a little
Another?
dove snail. And
He's like, maybe I have to get him fully upside down so he really thinks he's
yeah,
got to flip himself over.
has that slimy little foot.
Which is basically one big muscle.
Yeah, and eventually it'll wiggle it. Go. Oh, oh.
Come on. The people are waiting. Give him some peer pressure. No? All right, kids. Let's look around and see what we can see.
We'll look for another waving snail.
Hopefully we'll find a really, really big snail. Moon.
Ugh, yes.
So, this is a good place to walk in the water. Don't go past me, please. But we can see lots of little fish right along
Yeah,
the surface
jetting
here.
along.
This is good nursery habitat for little juvenile fish because the larger fish aren't going to come this shallow. I like to keep an eye on the gulls and crows when we're in this area because they often can see things that we can't. Oh gosh, there's a whole school of tiny fish. I'm going to herd them closer to you. So you
Cool. I will walk the other way. You can see the little ripples of these. That looks like a juvenile snake prickleback, which is a fish that gets really, really long. I don't know if you can see, there's like little silvery flickers of the fish that we're kind of trying to see. For Stephanie's question, what kind of nudibranch did you see eating the bubble snail eggs? It's a very, very tiny species, and I am blanking on. I don't remember. That's not striking a. It's got an H in it. Yep, that sounds about right. I know I took some pictures and videos of it, so we can do a microscopic little exploration. So that's a good incentive for me to get that post finished and done because, yeah, they're about the size of a grain of rice and just totally fascinating watching them wiggle through the egg casings. And looks like Rachel found the bubble snail.
flip them so that you can see them.
Yeah,
But
so you can see them kind of reaching out.
They've got eyes, which are adorable.
Close to Rachel's pinky is the head end of the bubble snail.
Here's their heads.
And I love them. Any like slimy creature with eye spots, like totally just delights me.
Loves things with eyeballs.
And these are a species with two little eye spots that I don't know. Will we be able to see?
They
Zoom
are
in a
adorable. I can
little.
pull them up
Oh,
out of the water.
I
a
just
little
flipped. Hi. Let me. How do I? Let's
Right here at
unlip.
the bottom
Okay,
somewhere.
there we go. Sorry about
Technical
that.
difficulties.
I'm glad I noticed that. Sometimes I'm not looking at the camera and I'm like, look at this bubble snail. We also have.
I'm gonna put the snails down and
Yeah,
show
I was
off
showing.
the
seeing
crab
the-
antics that are happening over here. We've got some hairy hermit crabs, which are a very quick species that opts to have a shell that's way too small. So there's no way for this crab to fit inside this entire shell. I mean, he's as in as he can get, or she. But they like to be really quick, so they will outrun a predator rather than sit and
Yeah.
try to outlast them.
I was also watching over here. There's a little tiny kelp crab.
Yeah, he wandered through a moment ago. I lost him. Good eyes.
Ugh. Oop. Tangled up in some Ulva intestinalis, which is the tube-like green seaweed. Nice little cutie.
I think I found the world's tiniest hermit crab.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah,
Very cute.
your normal shore crab, and this one gets pretty big, maybe 5 or 6 inches across the back of their really high-toothed carapace. It's really, really interesting shaped.
They get really fuzzy.
Yeah, they get really fuzzy. And their eyes are really wide apart. That's another feature of them. So their eyes are all the way out to the side. Super cute. And then the adults are really fast. They're fast and hairy and adorable.
All the best qualities.
I mean, yeah. All right, we'll put you back in there. Little mat.
Blends in really nicely. Excellent.
We're only at about 6 inches of water here.
And I think sorry if our connection dropped out a little bit there. I think we're back to a service spot. Trying to watch that. The trouble with, recording in the field is you don't always know. There's a school of fish. Again, probably can't see, but lots of them. Ooh, yeah. We were talking about that little one earlier.
This one's dead.
Nice mud clam and some bubble snail eggs.
Everything's covered in bubble snail eggs out here.
Lots of egg collars from the moon snail though, so that definitely gives us some hope. Yeah, I also noticed the shell here has the mark of the moon snail. Moon snails can use their chainsaw-like tongue called a radula to lick through the shell right into the muscle that holds that clam shut, and then pop, it opens and they can enjoy a tasty meal. This shell itself is kind of cool because it's another species of clam we often see. It is a bent nose clam, or bent nose macoma. You can kind of see how that shell has a little almost ski jump whoop into it. So they're kind of a soft shell clam, which still has a hard shell, but not quite as calcified as something like a butter clam that has a really, really thick shell. You can probably see the little shadows of the fish swimming around there. Try and keep our camera pointed up so you don't get seasick as I walk along and catch up to Rachel and her fam. Jen, we see you've tuned in. We wish you were here at the beach with us. You're Jen, yeah.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Jen, I don't know if you heard that, but you're her. You're her favorite.
All right. Let's head that way.
Okay.
Because I'm noticing an increase in the sand colors, and there's quite a bit more of these bent-nosed snails,
Clams.
which are our favorite food of the snails. Words are hard.
Words are hard.
I think I do this for a living. I should keep my words straight.
It's always exciting rewatching these every once in a while, and you're like, what did I just say? Sorry about that.
I like to give you guys the authentic experience of what it's really like to be on a beach with us. We're not all... Oh, here's a carapace of a Hermit crab.
Ooh, yeah.
I guess he was lunch for a go, because there's no other bits or pieces left.
Okay, see that nice yellow color though?
Yeah.
It's typical of them.
Cool find. Alright, where's Moon Snail?
I feel like I've heard a good technique for finding a moon snail is to howl for them maybe? I wonder if you could demonstrate a good...
I have my own patented method.
Oh. Is the howl just me?
The howl is just, yeah, it's all you. Do you bark to find dog winkle snails?
I mean, I should. That's a good... Usually that's
Do you howl
like...
to find wolf eel?
I think a good way to engage beach participants. So maybe if you're tuning in, feel free to give us a howl. Yeah.
The tide today is not super low.
Yeah. Low enough. And then something else I've noticed that as the summer goes on, you can see this really thick band of green. It almost like it suffocates the things underneath. And so it definitely adds a layer of, a literal layer of complexity to see what's underneath because the seaweed gets so thick on the beaches. Looks like somebody dragged I don't know. Oh no, those are just footprints. Distinct footprints. Nice, nice.
This is a really good clam area. I know from
How do you know it's a good clam area?
From past years that this area is a good clam. And since clams live for more than a year, there's probably still some clams here. But you're right, this ulva just sort of suffocates everything. So I vote we go up to the center and cross over to the other side.
Sounds like a good plan.
Evelyn! I need you, girl!
Wrangle the team. Hello!
Who's waving at us?
Oh!
Hey!
Ranger Chris on her day off. Shout out to the state parks.
Yeah, we do all kinds of fun stuff. We're doing a live Facebook video. So you're famous now. Huh? I said we're doing a live Facebook video, so you're famous now. Oh. Evelyn, come now, please.
Awesome. All right, well, Evelyn. Yeah, Evelyn's gonna catch up with us. I'm gonna go over to this glacial erratic. We've talked a little bit about how glaciers formed the Salish Sea over 10,000 years ago during the last ice age. And as that ice scraped away these beautiful basins and water helped carve and erode these places, when that ice melted, all these big rocks got plucked and left in place. So they also make great habitat for all sorts of interesting sea creatures. So we'll get to pop over here and investigate what life is living on this nice boulder. I see kind of your typical nice barnacles. This is also bird poop. This is a great rock that we've seen eagles come to and sit here, perch, eat a fish. I'm gonna peek underneath, and sometimes we'll see things like crabs hiding in, and we're in luck. We have a healthy little ochre star, and this one definitely puts the ochre in ochre. It's kind of that orange color, and I will say it is so exciting to see healthy little stars of this species, because this is absolutely one that was pretty devastated by sea star wasting syndrome. So the fact, get in focus there. And the fact that we're seeing healthy little ones means that they're successfully reproducing. So glad to see a healthy little ochre star here. And they have really, really strong suction cup tube feet, so I'm not even gonna try pulling it off the rock for you. But no, it's a cool, exciting species to see. Again, it's this little blobby dude here. And that puddle is nice and cool. That's a good sign for a nice hot day on a low tide. All right, they're working their way over. We'll peek on the other side of this big boulder and see if there's any other cool life forms. Kind of looking for the big plumose sea anemones. Sometimes they're dangling and looking like a big ball of snot, which is a delightful thing to find. See more of these bubble snail eggs. I'm gonna dig in. Oh, yep, here's that bubble snail again. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe this is a good chance to see those eye spots. I'll try and hold steady as this snail slugs around. And there's 2 little dots on its face. I don't know. I love them. They're so cute. Wiggling around. I'm gonna put this seaweed back kind of how I found it so that those guys don't dry out in the sun. But just from that little peek, you can imagine all the life that is underneath this ulva intestinalis mat here. And the wind's picking up, so sorry about that. We'll try and kind of block with our body, but no guarantees. So yeah, we're gonna pop over onto the other side of the sand spit here. Again, just looking out. We're at Penrose Point State Park. It is a gorgeous day in July. There's some nice low tides tomorrow as well, so if you want to go to the beach, now's the time. Kind of fun to leave footprints. Ooh. Okay, the wind is rough. You got some mud on your back, Eli. Oh, you got mudballed? Rough.
First time I dodged it.
Yeah.
Second time.
Is anybody else out there dodging mud balls today?
I was at the river collecting mud, then putting it out the river, and then just get away.
Nice. All right, Eli, we're going to investigate this next glacial erratic. This nice big rock, giant rock for sure. Do you notice any animals living underneath it? You kind of really see, so earlier there was a question about how green algae is attached, and you can see that they're attached to this rock in a nice way. I also really like kind of this frilly ulva. It's like shredded lettuce.
I was going to say, can you go and get it?
Ooh, this is kind of a cool thing to notice. So these barnacles are demonstrating what's called hummocking. So when they run out of space to grow wide, you'll notice that most barnacles are kind of this flat, short condition, but when they need more space, they can actually grow taller, and they kind of look, I'm trying to get this stuff focused, sorry about that. They get these kind of long, tooth-like structures that I like to think of it as the skyscraper of the barnacle world. So barnacles grow tall. How about that?
And then you can see that.
Uh-oh. I'm gonna guess that Rachel was gonna point out you can see where the barnacles used to be. So when they get knocked off or unglued, where their head is stuck to the rock, they leave behind this little glue spot, which really is kind of a beautiful thing to just take some time to notice and observe. And then that space is then available for things like these limpets to live, algae to grow. I'm seeing some mussels, these nice little black-shelled bivalves, also delicious in butter. You'll see snails, all sorts of things. We have an ouch, so a good thing to remember is to walk slowly when you're traversing this slippy, slimy algae. It is slippery, and these barnacles, they give no mercy. So hopefully Evelyn can get a band-aid and she'll be okay. Oh, buddy, send some love to Evelyn. Okay, Eli. Oh. Okay, Eli, can I come to your anemone right after I look at these squid eggs?
Ooh, squid eggs.
Evelyn, do you want to see these squid eggs?
I want to see squid.
So they're attached to this piece of seaweed. They kind of look like little sausage links or fingery grapes. And inside each one of these cases are squid babies. Yeah, and there's a bunch of squid babies. Eli, can you peek down and do you want to estimate how many baby squid? And oh my gosh. Okay, speaking of things with little eyes, you can see maybe like, I would guess, over 50 little squid babies developing inside these cases. You can see their little eye spots. And each one of these is from a different individual female. So one will pick a spot, lay an egg case, and then all the other ladies will be like, all right, good move. We like your placement. And they'll hedge their bets by kind of all going in together on a spot. So cool squid eggs. Exciting to find. Okay, Eli, can you take me to that cool anemone you just found? The cool anemone. Oh, I can see it. It's bright orange. It looks pretty tall. Oh, so I'm not going to touch it right away because I want it to kind of branch out, kind of move my shadow off of it though. You can see this is the tallest anemone in the Puget Sound.
I want to touch it.
We're not going to touch it quite yet, but you can see its mouth in the middle. And then the crown of feeding tentacles that have stinging cells that can help it catch food. We're gonna go a little bit longer. Yeah, Eli I think is ready to go for a swim in the lagoon. Unfortunately, we kind of kicked up some sediment here, so our lovely anemones going in. Oh my gosh, Eli, you're totally right. That is a huge cluster of squid eggs.
Maybe it's one of those like poppers things.
No, we're not gonna pop them. But yeah,
Let them pop them to find it.
you can gently move them up. Nice big cluster, and you can definitely look closely and see those little developing squid. When they're first laid, they're a nice bright white. These are definitely pretty mature squid eggs because they're kind of taking on this brown color. And these egg cases are really effective at protecting these little baby squid from the outside environment, and they defend them against predators. Granted, once they hatch, those little baby squid are, well, they're pretty fair game. They hopefully have some instincts to survive, but there's plenty of predators that want to eat them.
Push our hands out. We don't even control it. It's just like automatic.
Yeah, you might, when you fall, put your hands out to not hurt yourself, but then you get caught by the barnacles.
Brain is the most important.
Yes, friends, if you're tuning in right now, Eli is telling you, protect those brains. Eli, I'm seeing these cool anemones again. These ones, as opposed to that first one we saw, their feeding branches are kind of tucked in, so they look like just kind of big orange pumpkins. They definitely look a lot prettier when their feeding branches are out, but I'm gonna just kind of reach down and show you. This one's almost as long as my hand. They get really impressively tall, so cool thing to see. With that, I think we're gonna wrap up and do some consoling. So Eli, I was almost gonna go swimming. We'll look out at this lovely day and say thank you to everyone who tuned in. We really appreciate you joining us on this virtual beach walk when we can't be meeting in person. We definitely look forward to when that's safe to do so. But for now, if you don't mind sharing this video with your friends and family, we absolutely appreciate that.
Everyone can learn about the amazing and wonderful world of water.
Yeah, everyone, share the love. Good call, Eli. Thanks for that super important message. Here's that lovely anemone one more time. So yeah, share this, like us on Facebook, all the fun social media platforms. That's a really fun, free, easy way to support Harbor WildWatch. And of course, if you have the monetary abilities, we appreciate donations as well. You can pop on to harborwildwatch.org and do some donations through our website, as well as join our Steward Club. We love our Steward Club members out there, and that gives you fun free perks. As being part of that membership, you get the perks of that, and so we have some exclusive content for our members, and really appreciate them so much. Rachel and Evelyn, are you gonna wave us off? Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much again for tuning in. And Eli, maybe we'll go with your bright shining face. Do you want to say learn, have fun with me on 3? Or one last other thing? What's your one last other thing?
Have fun.
How about learn? We're not actually going to touch because of COVID. Learn, have fun. All right. Peace out, Girl Scouts.